The battle for Marawi 1 year after the city has been liberated from terrorist sins, but the problem with Islamic militancy remains. This is On the Record. I'm Hontiveros. Joining our discussion, Joint Task Force Ranao Deputy Commander Colonel Romeo Brawner. From Marawi City Mayor Majul Gandamra. Joining us later on the phone, Major General Danilo Pamonag, the commander of Joint Task Force Trident and Joint Task Force Marawi when he was still there. And from Singapore via Skype, Joseph Franco, a research fellow at the Center of Excellence for National Security. Mayor Majul Gandamra of the City of Marawi. Sir, thank you very much for joining us tonight here on the Record.
Magandang gabi po sa inyo, Ma'am Pia, sa ating mga tagapakinig.
Mayor, let's begin with this. I wonder if you remember that in the late afternoon of May 23, 2017, we were speaking on the phone and I was asking you about those men who were clad in black, who were dressed in black, who were roaming the streets of Marawi. At that time, sir, you said that you were aware of these men, but that things were under control. About 2 hours after that, I remember we were speaking to you again. We were on more than breaking news mode, and things had gotten a bit more tense by then. By that time, sir, you were asking for reinforcements from the AFP and the PNP. Can you take us back to that day, May 23rd, 2017?
Yes, Ma'am Pia. May 23, 2017, I was on my way to one of the municipalities of the province of Lanao del Sur. That was 2:30 p.m. And I encountered this, there was this commotion. People are panicking. And I saw trucks of military. And I asked some of my policemen who were accompanying me then to verify the situation, and we were informed that during that time there was this service of warrant of arrest against some members of the Maute inspired group, and this includes Danilo Napilon, and so that started the siege. So when I realized that lumalaki na po yung gulo, I went back to the City Hall for us to be prepared for any eventualities.
And of course, sir, that eventualities, medyo nanganak yung problema na yan. It didn't end that day, it didn't end that week or that month. As a matter of fact, sir, it stretched on for 5 months. What were you feeling then at the time? What were you thinking then at the time as mayor of that city, knowing that a war had come to the city of Marawi?
Well, during that time, Ma'am Pia, I was thinking that it will only last for 2 to 3 days, and it will be that the security forces will contend this attack, but it did not happen. It took us 5 months to repulse this the attack of these terrorists. So, akala rin ng ating mga kababayan na aabot lang ng ilang araw. That's the reason why when they left Marawi, wala ho silang nadala sa kanilang mga ari-arian.
Sir, the war, like we were saying earlier, of course, it lasted 5 months. Did it wipe out Islamic militancy? Because what we have right now is information that there's recruitment going on, that there are still Maute ISIS members roaming around in that area. There are still elements who are allied with them who are in that area. Is that correct, sir?
Not that I know from Marawi City, but there are reports from the military and even from other Maranos outside Marawi City that there are some recruitments being done by some sympathizers or members of this ISIS-inspired group. But the national government has also a program on this, and there were, in fact, a few days ago, our president witnessed the surrender of some of the members of the ISIS-inspired group itong nangyayaring recruitments ay meron pong ginagawa ring programa ang ating national government that they are enticing some members of this group to surrender, to return to the fold of law. And we are very supportive of that, ma'am. But we are also appealing to the national government and to the President that ito naman pong yung mga leaders at saka yung mga planners, yung mga utak ng nagpasimuno sa pagpasok ng Marawi City, ay dapat po bago sila mabigyan ng kung may bibigay mang amnesty or anumang compromise or negotiation with them, ay dapat po mayroon ding karampatang justice. Dahil hanggang ngayon ay naghihirap pa rin po ang aming mga kababayan, especially doon sa mga evacuation centers and temporary shelters. So it might be sending wrong signal na hindi pa ho tapos ang aming paghihirap dito sa Marawi City, ay itong mga leaders or organizers ay nabibigyan ng much priority in terms of giving opportunities for them. So I'm clear that it is very clear that we are very supportive of this initiative, but for those organizers, leaders, yung utak po ng grupo na ito ay dapat po they should be held accountable para po magkaroon tayo ng justice doon sa nangyari dito sa Marawi City.
Sir, my one last question. Paano po nakabalik ang Maute ISIS? We thought that with the war and the declaration that the war was over, that they had been wiped out, that they were that they had been at the very least decimated. Paano sila nakabalik at ngayon meron na silang ongoing recruitment?
Yung pong naipit dito sa Marawi City, yung mga membro, mga leaders nila, especially yung mga Maute family, ay talaga pong most of them are one way or the other ay namatay as a result of the fight between the government troops and this ISIS-inspired group. Pero meron pa rin pong possibilities that yung mga remnants, yung mga ibang sympathizers ay nasa labas pa. So yun po yung mga nagkakaroon ng opportunity na nagkakandak ng recruitment. But these are minimal, and I think the military is still in control. But hindi ho tayo pwedeng magbigay ng kumpiyansa. And the program of the government that enticing these people, yung nasa baba, ay napakaganda and we are supporting that. Except that yung mga leaders po, yung mga utak ay dapat po, they should be held accountable.
Mayor Majul Gandamra of the City of Marawi. Sir, thank you very much for joining us this evening. All right, let's speak to Colonel Romeo Brawner. Colonel Brawner, thank you very much for being with us this evening on the Record. You've been quoted as saying that there are intel reports that the Maute ISIS are now recruiting in barangays or municipalities around Lake Ranao.
That's right, ma'am. We have received information that one of the leaders, one of the sub-leaders of the Maute ISIS is still conducting recruitment activities and training of the new recruits around Lanao del Sur, particularly at the municipalities around the Lanao Lake.
All right, and this man is Abu Dar.
His name is Abu Dar, that's his alias. But right now, our focus is on trying to capture him so that his activities will cease and we will achieve peace in the whole of Lanao del Sur.
Who is this man? Who is this Abu Dar, this sub-leader as you call him?
He is one of the sub-leaders of the Maute ISIS. And if you recall, in one of the videos that we recovered from one of their devices, as they were planning the Marawi siege, he was one of them. He was one of the 10 leaders seen in the video. And in fact, he is the only one alive today.
You are sure he is still alive?
Yes, yes. He has been cited recently. In fact, during the last barangay and SK elections, he was he was cited in one of the municipalities, and they said that it was his group that killed one of the barangay captain, one of the people running for barangay captain in that municipality.
What municipality is this?
This is in Tubaran.
Tubaran. And
Yes.
how far is this, or how near is this from or to Marawi City?
By land, it's about 30 minutes away by land travel to Marawi
Oh,
City.
30 minutes. How did he survive those 5 months of war in Marawi? When every last one of them, including Isnilon Hapilon, Omar
Yes.
Maute, were killed.
Actually, the reason why he survived was because he left the main battle area early on during the Marawi siege. We believe that he was sent out for the purpose of recruiting more members or recruiting fighters to reinforce those fighting inside the main battle area.
Left early on. May 23, nag-umpisa ang gulo. Kailan siya umalis? Kailan siya nakalabas ng
There's
syudad?
a belief that he left about a few weeks after the start of the siege.
Okay, and then since that time, a few weeks after May 23, when he left to recruit and to train more people, until this time, no, na how many months since the war ended? This is the first time we're hearing about him again?
No, not
Or
really.
you've been able to track
Yes.
his movements ever since?
Yes, we have been tracking him down, and we're just waiting for the right moment. But actually, one of the efforts that we're trying to do now is that we're trying to convince them to surrender. In fact, last week, we presented to the President 27 members of the Maute ISIS who surrendered voluntarily.
Okay.
And probably within the next few days, we will be having more surrenderies.
These 27 who surrendered voluntarily and that you presented to President Duterte, these are the men of Abu Dar?
Yes. So
Okay.
most of them fought during the first days of the siege and then left. So some of them are with the group of Abu Dar.
Yeah.
And the others, for instance, the wife and the son of Otto Maute. Otto is the eldest among
Brother
the...
of
yes,
Omar and Abdullah.
that's right.
Okay.
So they were among those who surrendered first.
Okay. When you say 27 surrendered, they surrendered where? In the municipality of Tubaran?
No.
Where?
So they're actually distributed in the different municipalities of Lanao del Sur.
Yeah.
And it was an intelligence operation that was conducted to convince them to surrender. And this started even last year, as early as last year.
Okay. So if 27 surrendered, how many more men and or women and perhaps even children are we talking about? But before that,
yes.
walang bata, right? No one
May
under
mga
the age
bata.
of 8. May bata.
May
Okay.
bata. In fact, the son of Otto is only 15 years old.
Okay.
And he started training when he was 9 or 10.
Okay. So how many men, women, and or children are we talking about na who are still out there, who are with and fighting alongside, recruiting alongside Abu Dar?
We don't know exactly the number, ma'am, but we're looking at about 100 more. Yes.
Okay. How well armed are they? Are they armed? What do they have?
Yes, they are armed. They brought with them some of their high-powered firearms. Although we have had a program to recover the loose firearms, we have recovered so far about more than 2,600 in the whole of Lanao del Sur and Lanao del Norte.
Yeah.
But we believe that they still have a sizable amount
Okay.
of firearms.
And how militant are they?
Well, we believe that they lost most of their seasoned fighters during the Marawi siege. So they have perhaps a few fighters and more new recruits.
Okay. More. So your estimate is about 100 well-armed, high-powered firearms. Although they lost most of their, like you said, their seasoned fighters. They still have it in them. In other words, so this is. So ano ito, parang panibagong another branch of the Maute ISIS group? What are they now?
Well, they haven't actually abandoned their objective of creating a caliphate in Southeast Asia with the center in the Philippines. So they're still trying to recruit more members, and they're still trying to train fighters. So they still pose a threat to
Yeah.
Lanao del Sur.
Okay.
However, we also believe that they are not capable of launching another attack, such as what happened in Marawi last year.
Okay. Although, like you said, they haven't abandoned the objective of establishing a caliphate. and they wouldn't be able to launch a similar attack to what they did in Marawi. However, according to intel reports, saan naman nila gusto magpatayo ng caliphate?
Wala pa tayo nakuhang, we still don't have any specific area. But of course, during their planning, they were looking at Marawi as the center, and they were going to expand towards Iligan City and Cagayan de Oro. Because in order to establish a caliphate, you need a territory, just like in
This was
ICs.
pre-May 23,
That's right,
2017.
yes.
Okay. I have more questions for you, Colonel Brawner, but we're going to have to take a very short break. On the record, we'll be right back.
Privileges of the writ of habeas corpus is likewise suspended.
Vote of yes is in favor.
Declare Marawi City liberated.
We now announce the termination of all combat operations in Marawi.
This is On the Record. We're talking about Islamic militancy in the Philippines. Still with us, Joint Task Force Ranao Deputy Commander Colonel Romeo Brawner. Joining us from Singapore via Skype is Joseph Franco, a research fellow at the Center of Excellence for National Security. Joe, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, pleasure.
Well, before anything else, you did work with the Armed Forces of the Philippines in the last few years. Is that correct?
I think that was almost a decade ago, yes.
Oh, a decade ago. Okay, the last few 10 years. All right. So anyway, well, Joe, let's begin with this. Did the war in Marawi defeat Islamic militancy?
I guess we need to consider first what do we mean by Islamic militancy, because if we're looking at the Maute ISIS as a group, then we have defeated them militarily. You killed off most of the leadership, and you killed off most of their followers. So in a way, in a very limited tactical sense, then we did win the war. But if you look at militancy, and if you look at it broadly, then we have a long, long way to go. If you look at what happened recently in Indonesia, in Surabaya, you see the potential for violence from a very small group, like a family. And if you compare how much damage a family with little resources, how much damage they can do, how much panic they can cause in a city like Surabaya, then how much more for a big network like the Maute group. So I guess we have to really be conscious of how we pitch Islamic militancy is.
Okay. Well, Colonel Brawner is here with us, and he was telling us about Abu Dar, who was one of the 10 leaders of the Abu Sayyaf that's seen in that video. That's an old planning video that was confiscated well, that was taken from a digital device of one of the rebels, confiscated early on during the Marawi siege. And apparently this Abu Dar recruiting, training in the outskirts of Marawi in several of the several of the municipalities around Lake Ranao. So that doesn't seem very comforting when you hear about that, right?
Yeah, it's not really that comforting, but I guess we really need to be very cautious when it comes to looking at the threats, right? Because this is not the first time that a militant group tried to bring in members using money. And it's a combination of money and ideological commitment and the ability to wage violence. That's you have to have a perfect storm. So, because there are certain examples in in prior history and prior engagements wherein people who were motivated to fight through money, for instance, the 2013 siege in Zamboanga, the moment the bullets started flying, they just deserted en masse. So I think that's one good thing that's going for them. Of course, we need to understand that we are dealing with a whole different ballgame right now because they have a lot of money. I mean, compared to, say, what the Miswari group had in 2013, the estimates, and it depends on who you ask on how much money the Maute got from Marawi, ranges from 10 to 100 million pesos. So that's something that we need to be worried about, the financing of terror.
Hindi ba, in the past, what happened was you had the Hapilon, Abu Sayyaf linking arms with this Maute ISIS group and this Maute family. Earlier on, we were just showing that video of the Maute brothers and the other leaders, no? So now, are we looking at that scenario that they're going to find like-minded people who are ideologically committed, who have that ability and that, will have that perseverance to wage violence and who will be willing to spill blood?
Yeah. I guess it's too early to tell because even when you look at, say, the Abu Sayyaf, and this is something that I've written about extensively. When you look at the Abu Sayyaf group, there's no one Abu Sayyaf group. There are factions, for instance, the guys in Sulu, who are more concerned with kidnap for ransom and profit-generating activities. In a way, the meeting of Hapilon and the Mautes was a meeting of complementing strengths and requirements. Hapilon didn't have a lot of money going around in Basilan. On the other hand, the Maute guys had the money. They had links with some of the political clans there, and they needed someone who has street cred, someone who is known to IS. At this point in time, I'm not sure whether or not Abu Dar has the brand, so to speak. Some sort of brand. Like Hapilon had some connections. He had some sort of resonance with the IS propagandists in Syria, in Iraq, and Southeast Asia because he had a brand. I'm not sure whether Abu Dar has a similar, I hate to say it, star power.
Star so power or para, kumbaga credibility, no? As a terrorist leader.
Yeah. And to be honest, big caveat as well, because if you're looking at, say, IS propaganda, a lot of them are not really true. We need to make sure and triangulate and confirm what they are saying is actually true. Because I've also written about this, about how some ISIS propagandists claim to be in Sulu, fighting in Sulu, and then moving on to Syria. Turns out he was just visiting Cebu when he was deported to Australia because he's an Australian national. So we need to be very careful when it comes to propaganda. I mean, there are many times wherein ISIS propaganda units will just pick up on some event in the Philippines and just claim that, oh, it was a soldier of the caliphate who did it. And then it would turn out that actually it was just some person with a grudge against a casino or something else. So I think that's something that we need to be wary of when it comes to taking their claims seriously, because it is propaganda. I mean, terrorist organizations, they lie. They can lie deliberately. They will do that. They can do that. So yeah.
Okay, but if you wade through the propaganda and try to make sense of it, what are we looking at? Colonel Brawner here was telling us that they haven't abandoned their objective of creating a caliphate in the south. Of course, they've been decimated. Many, if not most, of their leaders are gone, but they're still there. They're recruiting, they're training. Eto na naman tayo, hindi ba?
Yeah, good point. I guess we can see here the difference between, say, the IS core in Syria, Iraq, like the central leadership, vis-a-vis the different regional and local factions who want to be part of the big IS brand. Because if you look at IS strategy documents, their doctrine, as early as July 2016, there were indications that they are already dispensing with this whole wilaya and province system as early as 2016, because they found out that if they consolidate into provinces, if they build up a bureaucracy, they will be easily targeted by coalition forces.
They'll have to defend that territory, in other words.
Exactly.
So madali na, instead of being in guerrilla form na palipat-lipat sila, pwede na silang may base na sila, kumbaga, no? It'll be easier now for the armed forces and the PNP to get them. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, so one way to look at the pronouncements of the different ISIS-inspired and ISIS-pledged groups, whether it's in Southeast Asia or the Horn of Africa or Yemen or even in the Pakistani region, Afghan-Pakistan border, is that it can be aspirational. They seek. They claim that they want to establish a wilaya, to establish a province, to get support, financial support, to get attention and notice from Syria and Iraq. And I think that's a valid tactic. You're using the bigger brand to boost up your local brand. But of course, the question is whether or not ISIS core, the guys in Syria and Iraq, are still receptive to taking in new provinces and new wilayas, because they are on the defensive in their home turf.
Right.
So how can you expect them to send their resources and their personnel into places where it is not still clear whether or not those local affiliates still hold ground? I mean, if again, taking the Hapilon example, Hapilon was called an emir. He was never called a wali, because being called a wali or a governor of a province is very important in the grander scheme of ISIS strategy and doctrine. So even the ISIS core were careful of not putting too much status on Hapilon, because they know that Hapilon still has yet to control territory in a very strict sense of the word, right?
Okay. So given the geopolitical realities right now, what's happening in Iraq, Syria, kumbaga they are, like you said, and I was just thinking of the word, they're vulnerable in a sense there. Para bang problemahin pa nila yung mga nag-audition sa Mindanao. Ganun ba?
I mean, if they have problems on their home turf, they have issues on their own home court, then how can the local affiliates, the guys from overseas, how can they expect to receive support from the home office?
Right.
So that's one way of looking at some of the pronouncements. I mean, it can be aspirational. It can be just an aspirational claim rather than describing the conditions on the ground.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Joe Franco, via Skype from Singapore, of the Center of Excellence for National Security. We're going to talk to you again. Thank you so much, Joe.
All right. Thanks.
We're taking a short break. This is On the Record on CNN Philippines. Welcome back. We continue our discussion on the Battle of Marawi 1 year after and where that episode left Islamic militancy in the Philippines. Still with us, Joint Task Force Ranao Deputy Commander Colonel Romeo Brawner. And joining us on the phone, Major General Danilo Pamonag. During the war in Marawi, he was commander of Joint Task Force Trident and of Joint Task Force Marawi. Sir, thank you very much for joining us.
Good afternoon, Pia, at sa lahat ng nakaintapay sa programa ito.
Yes. So can you tell us about this? No, you first set foot in Marawi on May 28, 2017. That was just a few days after the siege began, and you stayed for 5 months. First, like I was saying, as commander of Task Force Trident and then of Joint Task Force Marawi. What were your first thoughts, sir, on May 23 when the siege began? What were you thinking when you knew that you were going to Marawi? And then your first thoughts when you reached Marawi on May 28?
Yes. Initially, we thought that the fighting will be over for just a few weeks. Now, when I stepped on dito sa Marawi and I saw yung structures, I felt na this would be a long fight against the ISIS. If I may compare it dun sa Zamboanga siege kasi, where I was the ground commander also, yung mga structures doon are made of light materials, which is very different dito sa Marawi. Structures are all tall and concrete buildings.
Concrete,
So,
sir, no? And double reinforced ba yung tawag doon? Hindi ito ordinaryong concrete na isang kwan ng hollow block lang, ano, sir?
Yes.
Parang buhos ba? Parang ganon?
Yes, mga buhos yan eh. Tapos tall buildings, no? Kaya they have enough cover and protections during the fight.
Yeah.
So I know then it will really last, complemented by number of hostages na nasa kamay nila. So that made the fighting more challenging and difficult.
Well, sir, you mentioned the word challenging. What was your biggest challenge in Marawi during those 5 months?
Yes, as ground commander ng main battle area, my biggest challenge there is to safely rescue the civilian who were used by the Maute as their shields. No? So we all know, andito tayo sa environment na urban, hence collateral damage is unavoidable and inevitable. Actually, we could have drawn the conclusion of the siege much earlier, but we were determined to minimize the loss of lives and the properties. Hence, naging very deliberate yung aming pag-search from buildings to building. No? Also, yung lives of our soldiers, this is a primary concern natin yan. Those wounded soldiers na they should be immediately evacuated in safer ground for further medevac. And yun nasabi ko kanina, another challenge was the battle zone itself, yung configurations and type ng battle zones na most of the structures there were made of concrete and tall buildings. No? The introduction of tunnels sa drones, which we had never seen during Zamboanga siege. This time sa Marawi siege, ginamit yung mga tunnels, even yung mga drones, the massive deployment of IEDs and snipers. Those were the challenges na nakita ko during Marawi siege.
Sir, yung tunnels, which were already there from the very beginning, right, sir? Tapos meron pang mga, yung tinatawag nilang may rat holes. As in, binubutasan nila yung ibang building, yung ibang bahay. Pagpasok ninyo ng mga sundalo, biglang nagugulat kayo, bakit merong mga butas na? Hindi po ba, sir? Tapos meron din, and they were also manufacturing petrol bombs. They were making them by hand, correct, sir? May mga bote, may langis, may...
lahat ng gamit na nasa buildings, including LPG gases, they use them to their own advantage. Kaya more often, pag pumapasok kami sa mga buildings o mga houses where merong mga LPGs, normally nakabukas na yan and they will just ignite it with their one. So, napakahirap yung pag-clear talaga ng building during that time. Kasi lahat yung ginagamit nila to their own advantage.
So in a way, sir, medyo frustrating din, no? How do you explain that to civilians? Kaya po tumatagal dahil nga sa all these things that you mentioned, all these factors that could turn out to be booby traps if you weren't careful, right, sir?
Yes. Actually, yung siege of Marawi siege is not that too long. If we may have to compare it sa other war like yung sa Mosul, sa Aleppo, it took a very long time.
Right.
Now dito sa atin, sa Marawi, we just took it for 5 months without any sophistications of our equipment.
Right.
We just relied on the innovations ng ating mga sundalo, yung being very adaptable sa nakikita nilang TTPs ng kalaban. These are the things that gave us victory. No?
Innovations, sir,
Yes.
adaptability. Ito na po siguro yung, ano po ito, sir? Ito na po yung greatest asset ng AFP. Sa Marawi,
ito
yun na po
yung
ba?
things na because we lack some capabilities, yung mga sundalo natin nagiging very innovative. Nagiging very sila. Nakakaisip sila ng mga bagay-bagay how to address yung present situation.
I am almost tempted to ask you, sir, to describe this, how they were innovative, but wag na lang po siguro kasi battle secrets yon. Pero you mentioned drones also, and that was a surprise to many of us in the media. Aba, ang Maute, ang rebelde, may drone. And you were able to shoot down some of them. At the same time, ang AFP meron ding drones, kaya lang, minsan nakukuha din ng Maute, hindi po ba, sir?
Yes. Yung Maute could afford to procure yung mga drones because marami silang pera. What we did during Marawi, especially during daytime, there were so many drones hovering up the building. No? So ang ginawa natin is kinulayan natin yung sa atin so that alam natin kung sa atin yun or sa kalaban. So we were able to shoot down yung mga drones ng kalaban. Marami tayong na-recover sa kanila. And that gave us good informations about their locations, about their firearms, and about their whereabouts.
So na-retrieve nyo po yung info na nasa loob?
Yes, we gathered so many drones ng kalaban.
Okay.
And we never saw that during Zamboanga siege.
Right.
So ito, mga bago, nag-level up sila sa kanilang TTPs.
Nag-level up sila. Sir, yung, of course, there were several mishaps. There was that mistake in bombings, for example, troops dying because of friendly fire. What is it that we could have, that you want done better next time around para ma-avoid po ang ganito mga sitwasyon?
Ngayon, ang ginawa natin sa armed forces, we included yung training ng military operations in urban terrain sa lahat ng career forces natin, both enlisted personnel and officers. No? Also, if you may have observed during the later part of the siege, wala na tayong incidents like yung ganun yung unfortunate incident na nakupanan.
Right.
Yes, because we have good Air Force assets na tumutulong sa atin na almost precise yan. So we immediately corrected yung pagkamali sa una, and then naging maganda naman yung result in the succeeding months.
It's been 1 year, sir. As a matter of fact, you are now Southern Luzon Command. Pero kamusta na po yung mga sundalo ninyo, yung mga nanggaling Marawi? Go ahead, sir.
Yung mga sundalo natin who came from Marawi siege, again, I saw them, most of them, just this morning.
So you mean Tuesday morning?
Yes, just
Tuesday
this morning
yes.
we had a gathering together of all those who were involved in Marawi. It started off this morning with a mass promotions sa mga NCOs natin who participated in Marawi, then followed by a book launching entitled Marawi and Beyond, No? This consists of 22 volumes. No? And tomorrow we will have a red-laying for those comrades who have done before us. No?
Yeah.
And it's important to note that 3 months ago, last December, I visited also the different hospitals kung saan nakakonfine yung mga sundalo natin. And it's good to note that I could see on their faces yung happiness, no? Brought about by, of course, yung natapos na yung Marawi. So I could feel yung I could still felt yung courage and fighting spirit of those men in the hospitals.
Okay, and at least inaalagaan sila ng gobyerno, sir, right?
Yes, they were properly attended to by our government.
Okay, sir, you I wanted to ask and if your answer can be brief. No, you were talking about how you saw each other again after quite a long while. Every time a band of soldiers survive a war together, there is always that bond, no, that can never go away. It's like nagkakaintindihan na kayo agad-agad, right, sir? So what was that? Kumbaga, in a way, a reunion like.
Yung aming sharing of light moments kanina is a continuous process. Sinayon na hinto, no? Sharing of jokes, especially release yung 5 months namin sa Marawi. Overall, it was indeed a very nice gathering, seeing each other and sharing jokes and stories about Marawi sa kanila isa-isa. Yung iba malapit ng maluha, no? Dahil sa recognitions and acknowledgement given by the Commanding General and the USEC of Department of National Defense, USEC Cardoso Luna. And we are all very happy, very proud that once again we were together talking with each other, facing with each other, but in a different environment. Dati-rate, doon kami sa battle zone. Now, we are in a room where we could share light moments with each other.
Major General Danilo Pamonag, sir, thank you very much for joining us on The Record. Salamat po, sir.
Thank you very much. At nabuhay kayo.
Well, Colonel Brawner is still here with us, of course, and I wanted to wrap up the show with you. Colonel Brawner, earlier we were talking about the recruitment and the training that's going on still by Abu Dar, yung naiwan na lang ata no, na sub-leader. And you heard what Joe Franco was talking about also. So I wanted to ask you, in terms of training, where and how is this going on? And paano sila nakabalik ng, I mean, you know, hindi naman sila makakabalik kung hindi alam naman ng government officials in that locale, right? In the LGUs in those areas.
Well, the area where they're conducting their training is really in a remote place. No? Just like when they were starting in Butig, most of the areas that they used for training were in the mountains at the outskirts of Butig and Lanao del Sur. So we believe that they're still just roaming around in the area, trying to recruit more members. But they're finding it more difficult now to recruit if they use only the ideology. So as was mentioned by Joe, they're now using also money to try to entice people to join them.
Yeah, okay. So they have promised, sweldo? Or meron ng advanced payment? Have they been giving out money or what?
Well, we heard that they give the parents, especially of the children, about 70,000 for a joining fee, and then they are promised a monthly pay after that.
Of how much?
Of about 10 to 15,000, according to the surrenderies.
Okay, so they have a lot of money. 70,000 peso joining fee, tapos 10 to 15,000 sweldo.
Yes.
Monthly sweldo.
Yes.
At yung mga magulang naman, very willingly ibinibigay yung mga bata? Or hindi?
Hindi naman. Well, that was the case prior to the siege, and after the liberation, we're hearing a few of a few of this modus operandi by the Maute.
Okay.
But we believe that they're finding it even more difficult now.
All right.
That's why they're targeting the orphans or the relatives of the fighters that died, who died inside the main battle area. And then they're also going after the impoverished families. No? They pay them so that they can get their children to train with them.
All right. Colonel Romeo Brawner, sir, thank you very much for joining us. And of course, we'd like to say thank you to all our guests who joined us earlier on. The Mayor of Marawi, Majul Gandamra, Major General Danilo Pamonag, who served as commander of Task Force Trident and of Joint Task Force Trident and Joint Task Force Marawi. From Singapore, joining us via Skype earlier, Joe Franco. And of course, like we said, Colonel Romeo Brawner, Joint Task Force Ranao Deputy Commander. Sir, thank you for being with us, and that is On the Record this week. I'm Hontiveros. Thanks for watching.